when you look at, this wealth gap in this country, right, there's an actual great reason for it, right? You just said it, right? And I think that we never want to beat ourselves down on that fact. But I think that there's also a huge information gap, right? An exposure gap. So one thing that I always like to tell people is, we can't necessarily change that past. It'd be amazing if we can just sweep and everybody got reparations right now. I think we deserve them, but I'm not going to hold my breath on that. Right. And so I think one of the things is that helping, educate our people to, one, like you say, better money practices, learn how to budget better, never live beyond your means. Right. You look at a lot of the studies, we outspend disproportionately compared to the vast majority of the rest of the world, right? Especially in the US, right? And so one of the things is like, we got to stop spending so much. We got to stop living beyond our means, and we have to start investing. I think, investing is one of those things that will help us in the long run, right? I think, when you look at social media, everyone's trying to get rich quick overnight, but there's so many basic fundamental things that we don't have as a community. We don't have life insurance, right? When you think about one way of generating generational wealth, it's amazing to, when I pass away, I could give my home to my children. That's amazing. I can give maybe my retirement account, my stocks to my children. But one way that's extremely easy, very low cost, right? I didn't necessarily have to inherit a home. I didn't need to be rich in order to do this. It's just getting an actual insurance policy, right? I think in our community, when you look at certain things like that, vast majority of people are doing what? GoFundMes, right? GoFundMes is not life insurance, right? And I think us as a community, we got to continue to bridge this information gap. I think once we bridge that information gap, then we will be able to bridge that wealth gap.
Right. No, you're right. I mean, but and again, I just want to emphasize the information gap is not just in the African American community. And actually, back to the statistic about how much we spend, we actually don't spend much more than white Americans. In different categories like clothing, we may spend 1 or 2 percentage points more. We just spend on different things. And so, because I did a whole series for the Washington Post called Sincerely Michelle, and I actually looked at this whole sort of myth that we, overspend on Jordan sneakers, compared to white Americans. And actually, that's not really true. Our spending is in line with the rest of America. But again, we're coming from behind. And so to your point, while we're waiting for policy changes, while we're waiting to make sure that we are not discriminated against, while we're waiting to make sure that we have equal pay for the same job, the same background, that you got to do a little bit better, right? Because we are coming from behind. And so that's right. My grandmother taught me, like, listen, things aren't fair, but you still need not spend a whole bunch of money. And that's what you're saying. But I do think we need to change the commentary on this idea that somehow we are behind simply because of the choices that we make. America lives the American dream on borrowed money, not just Black American.
No, I agree with some points. I would have to disagree with, some points. I can list like 20 categories where Black people are outspending disproportionately, right? When you look at Black people make up 14 to 15% of Americans, and we're outspending, 21% on whether it's hair products or seafood or, deodorant, hygiene products. Like I can go down the list. So I get you, right? You can make the data appear any way, right? I think that when you look at it, America has a money problem, right? 70% of Americans don't have $1,000 for savings, right? They don't just say Black people. So I get it. But I think when you look at Black people with our spending habits, one of the biggest things you could talk about is we don't necessarily spend money with people that look like us. The reason could be we don't have that many Black owned businesses, right? You could always say there's a cause and effect for everything. But I do think that, when you look at now, even companies understand that Black people spend their money disproportionately, right, at a rate that is not the same as white people, right, when it comes to, stimulus checks, right? Literally, you had companies, Fashion Nova, purely target marketing Black people saying, oh, it's the stimmy for me. Right. It's the stimulus. Come spend your stimulus check with me. That enraged me and infuriated me. But Nielsen is going to tell you that Black people are disproportionately spending because they're willing to spend more money. Right. According to Nielsen, they're willing to spend more money to try to appear to have a lifestyle that they don't necessarily have. Right. And so I think that's an issue. Right. So I do believe that, America as a whole don't necessarily have spending in check, right? But I also think that when we talk about the historical factors, you look at today, right? There's a lot of predatory, not just lending, but their cash advance places only in black neighborhoods or people of color neighborhoods, right? And so, you know, when you look at some of these things,
and then why is that though? Why are they only in our neighborhoods? Is it because black people are spending it, or because the zoning laws allow them to be there, because the politicians that allow that to happen don't look like us?
100%.
And so, you know, the cause and effect, you're correct. But when you talk about spending, so white people spend more on golf, or they spend more on alcohol. I mean, you know, we can disagree about those percentages, but the fact of the matter is, what I really want to tell folks is that that it's not our fault that we are spending the way the rest of America is, but we do have to double down on being better because we're coming from behind.
I agree. So we agree there, right? We agree that, you know, unfortunately, we're coming from behind, right? And I think that when we start to try to give people the necessary steps to get ahead, right? It's like, you know, I don't want to say like, okay, you know, it's okay that you're outspending. It's okay that you don't have a savings. It's okay you don't have an emergency fund, right? Because, you know, slavery bought us here, right? We understand that. My thing is, what are the necessary steps we need to take right now to actually elevate our world, elevate our community, right? And it comes from bridging the information gap, right? I think when you look at this new era we're in, social media, right there, the internet, right? The internet is effectively giving us the ability to equalize the playing field, right? You cannot, right? When you look at the schools from an actual homeowner standpoint, right? The taxes we pay on our homes is what actually funds our schools, right? And so when you look at and understand why, you know, our schools are underfunded, when you actually look and say, why are our schools actually underfunded? Well, obviously the reason, right? We were redlined. Our cribs are not appreciating in value. We get that. But my thing is, now we have the ability to educate ourselves on YouTube. So we need to budget better. We need to start investing. We need to have those life insurance policies. We need to start taking all those necessary steps that our counterparts have already known for hundreds of years that would just continue to be passed down.